This is a deep dive podcast covering articles published on Ecogate's blog, brought to you by Ecogate, the leader in on-demand dust collection.
Dust collection, it was all day. Bobby was blowing dust away. Dust collection, for those who days. Was the anthem of the town parade. Go on! Sorry, you have to wait till got you thrown. Singing thousands, featuring thousands. When you can make you want to sing it's wrong.
All right, let's dive into something a little different today, huh? Industrial design. And no, before you click away thinking it's all conveyor belts and steel-toe boots, we're talking about Ecogate's greenBOX.
Yeah. Pronounced like greenBOX, by the way.
Exactly. And it's not just some boring gray box you tuck away in a corner. This thing actually looks, cool.
It's pretty striking, right? Like, you don't expect industrial equipment to be visually appealing.
You kind of expect those clunky gray things, yeah.
Yeah.
So it almost feels intentional, like a statement for Ecogate.
Oh, absolutely. It's them saying, we care about design even in this space. And it goes deeper than just aesthetics. This sleek design reflects a core value for them, industrial energy efficiency. There's a parallel there to Tesla's factories.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Both of them, Tesla and Ecogate, they're proving that form and function aren't mutually exclusive.
Right, it's like this underlying philosophy that you can have both. Okay, so speaking of unexpected choices, I gotta admit something surprised me at first. We're in this age of wireless everything, right? But Ecogate went with wired Modbus communication for their system. Seemed a little counterintuitive.
And yet, it's actually a brilliant move on their part. This is where things get interesting, because sometimes the obvious choice, the one everyone else is making, isn't the best one. And when you look at the cost-benefit analysis, wired wins, hands down.
Okay, now you have to explain that. Because on the surface, you'd think wireless is cheaper, right?
You'd think so, yeah. But picture this. You're trying to install wireless receivers across a massive factory floor.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And each machine has its own power requirements. Some are humming along at 115 volts, others at 230, maybe even some behemoths running on 460 or 575.
A whole mess.
Getting wireless receivers to play nice with all those different power demands, logistical nightmare, budget buster.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine signal strength is a whole other can of worms, right?
Exactly, especially in those huge factories. You'd practically need a repeater in every corner.
Which adds up.
Oh, for sure. Cost and complexity both go up. And then there's the regulatory hurdles. Do you know Europe has way stricter rules about electromagnetic compatibility, EMC testing for all equipment in factories, not just wireless stuff?
Really? So it's not just about the wireless tech itself?
Nope, it's everything. But in the U.S., it's basically the Wild West for electromagnetic interference.
Makes reliable wireless communication a lot trickier, I'd imagine.
You got it. But with wired, Ecogate sidesteps all that.
So it seems low-tech, but it's actually the smartest move they could make.
Absolutely. They're not afraid to go against the grain if it means a better solution. And that same thinking, that willingness to zig when everyone else sags, it comes through in how they handled those supply chain nightmares during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah, the chip shortage. That was rough.
When everything was delayed, Ecogate didn't just sit around waiting. They used it as an opportunity. They decided to design their own interface board, one that would work with any industrial computer. Pretty genius, if you ask me.
So instead of being held hostage to whatever supplier, they built their own solution.
Exactly. And they landed on Intel's next unit of computing, or NUC.
So what's so special about these NUCs?
A few things. First off, they're really powerful processors, but also super energy efficient, which fits with Ecogate's whole philosophy, right?
Makes sense.
Second, they're flexible. Both Intel and ASRock make them, so if another shortage hits, Ecogate isn't stuck.
They've got options.
Yep. And maybe most importantly, these NUCs are future-proof. They've got tons of memory and SSD space to handle software updates for years to come.
Wow, so they turned a crisis into a competitive advantage? That's impressive. Speaking of thinking ahead, let's talk about a feature that just screams peace of mind.
Yeah.
Redundant power supply.
It's more than just peace of mind, though.
Right.
We're talking about preventing catastrophes.
Okay, how so?
Think about it. These systems are mission critical. They're the backbone of these huge factories. And any downtime, that's lost production, missed deadlines.
Yeah, it's not like your laptop crashing.
Exactly. These industries, even a small hiccup, can have massive ripple effects.
So give me an example. Where's the catastrophe really hit home?
Okay, take a pharmaceutical plant. If their dust collection system goes down, even for a bit, It could mean entire batches of medication are compromised, contamination risks.
Wow.
We're talking millions of dollars in losses, all from one single point of failure.
That's a powerful example. So no half measures when it comes to reliability.
Absolutely not. And that's where this redundant power supply comes in. The greenBOX Max and Master models, they have two identical high-end power supplies running in parallel.
Oh, wow. So if one fails.
The other one takes over instantly, no interruption, business as usual.
And I'm guessing the system doesn't just silently switch over. Someone's getting an alert, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. The system immediately notifies maintenance so they can address the issue. It's all about keeping those systems up and running smoothly. And speaking of smooth, another thing that caught my eye, and this one you wouldn't expect in an industrial setting, they're using high-end Samsung OLED displays on the greenBOX Max and Master models.
Really? That seems a little extra, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't a standard display get the job done?
See, that's Ecogate again, challenging those assumptions. While a regular display might seem enough, OLEDs bring this whole other level of clarity, efficiency, the colors are vibrant, the contrast is incredible, that user interface really pops.
Okay, I can see that. But what about the lifespan? OLEDs have a reputation, right?
Right, but that's not really an issue here. The greenBOX display, it's meant for occasional use, not running 24/7, plus they've even got a screensaver that kicks in after 10 minutes of inactivity.
Smart. They thought of everything. Okay, now for something I'll admit I'm not as familiar with. Electronic fuses, what's the deal with those and why are they a big deal in the greenBOX?
Electronic fuses, think of them like super fast, self-resetting safety switches for the whole electrical system.
All right.
So a traditional fuse, it takes time to blow. But electronic fuses, they react in microseconds, cut off the power before any real damage happens.
So it's like a bodyguard for the whole control unit.
Exactly. And no more scrambling to find a replacement fuse in the middle of a crisis. They reset automatically once the problem is solved.
That's handy.
Right. They even let you fine-tune the trip current thresholds, based on your specific system.
Yeah.
Gives you that extra level of control. And you want to know something even more interesting.
Always.
Even Tesla uses electronic fuses in their cars. So Ecogate's right there on the cutting edge, bringing this tech you'd normally find in, high-end electronics into the industrial world.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Ecogate taking these innovations that might seem out of place in a factory and using them to solve real problems.
Totally. And they're not just throwing in flashy tech for the sake of it. Every decision, it serves a purpose. Whether it's making the user experience better, keeping costs down in the long run, or just making sure the system runs smoothly for years.
It really is amazing. Like, they're proving industrial design doesn't have to be purely functional. You can have that elegance and that efficiency all in one package.
It's smart engineering.
And speaking of smart, we've got to talk about efficiency again, right? It's like the common thread in all of Ecogate's choices. The wired communication, the super reliable power supply, even those OLED screens. It all comes back to maximizing performance, minimizing waste.
Exactly. It's that industrial energy efficiency in action. Not just a slogan, a real commitment. And it shows in every detail, every component.
It's really impressive to see it all come together. They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk. So it makes me wonder, what other industries could learn from this kind of thinking? What if we started looking at all industrial equipment with this same lens? The elegance, the efficiency, even the inspiration.
That's a great question.
Right. It doesn't have to be just about utility. It can be about something more. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Ecogate's greenBOX X. We covered a lot of ground, from sleek design to the nitty-gritty of electronic fuses.
And we uncovered some pretty brilliant thinking along the way.
We did. It's a reminder that sometimes the most innovative solutions aren't the flashy ones. They're the ones that just work reliably, efficiently, with an eye on the future.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all that. Until next time.